First of all, we'd like to welcome you to MCTC and for at least having some interest in our students and possibly even sending some of your employees to us for training through our Earn and Learn program. We'll give you a little more information about what this program is, how it started, and where we see it going forward. But just real quickly, this program came out of, it sort of began through partnership with a few companies out of Lexington, Louisville, Southern Indiana that are a part of a group called Turnpoint, which includes Fade Heating and Air. Those companies, Mazer, Donhauer, and Greenwell Mechanical out of Southern Indiana. And those companies were actually looking at offering training in-house at the time. And we started talking to them and basically told them we could do it for a lot cheaper than what they were going to build their own program for. We already had the model, we already had the proof of concept, and we had sent them several people in the past. They knew what we brought to the table, and so they were interested in listening. And then when we told them we could run it through scholarships, financial aid, Kentucky Work Ready Scholarship, the cost was essentially nothing for any student that was in the state, other than some supplies and a few fees that might be added on. But for the most part, they were doing this for a little bit of nothing. And so they obviously took us up on that. We've been doing this for 2 years at this point, and hope to maybe open it up to some local companies. We have hopefully supplied enough entry-level techs to some of these 4 companies that we're not needing as many for the most part. They're not needing to send as many every year because they've got people that are sticking around that we've had. They've got journeymen on staff now. And so we're hoping to open it up now that we have some room in the program. In the past, we've ran 15, and this past year we started with 20. We're going to graduate 17, I think, of those. And so it's been a good partnership. But one thing we've always wanted to do is to be able to serve the community that we're in even better. And so by filling those positions at those companies, it's gave us a little more opportunity to be able to offer the same to these local companies when you may not have but one person that you would want to send. And so these larger companies have more people, obviously, and they can help us fill these classes, but we can supplement that enrollment with 1 or 2, maybe from the local industry. So that's our plan. For those of you who may not know, most of you probably do, but my name is Adam Hawkins. I'm the HVAC instructor and associate professor on the Montgomery campus of MCTC. So a little bit about myself, not to spend a lot of time on me, or John's going to introduce himself here in a few minutes as well, but just to show you kind of our background and where we come from, and that helps kind of show our approach to how we teach. I have been an HVAC technician since 2004. I've worked in residential and then went into commercial, working at Morehead State University for about 5.5 years there, and then got the position I'm in now in 2013. And so I've been teaching ever since, but I also still keep my license active. I've got my master's license and operate a little small side business when I'm off through the summers and things, and friends and neighbors and that kind of thing. And then as far as education goes, I share this with all of our students. I started different than a lot of them have, but some of them have already been to college. And so I started it at Morehead State, and it didn't work out for me. I didn't pass a couple of classes and got behind, and just really didn't have a plan on what to do. And so I ended up, because I was working in HVAC at the time just as a job, transferring to MCTC. Got my associate's degree there, and then got on at Morehead State, where I continued to take some classes toward my bachelor's degree. Did that online through a program called Technology Management, which is available to all of our students as a transfer scholarship. It's a 2+2 completer degree, so 2 years in any technical program, and you transfer those 2 years in, and you try to get, if you try to do that with any other program, they're going to look at class by class, and it's going to be pretty difficult to transfer in many courses from a tech program. But with technology management, they take that full 2 years. So it's a really good program. There's scholarships available for our students as well. And so even, you may be interested in something like that yourself, but that is an option for those students. And then from there, I went on and was able to get my master's degree. Um, and so I always, tell that because I started backwards probably, but my first degree came with us, and it hasn't stopped me. It's helped me in everything. And I've told them if I had to fall back on something, my associate's degree would carry a lot more weight than my master's and my bachelor's because it's in something that's relevant. So that's just a little bit about me and kind of the way that we approach it. I know a lot of what's out there. Obviously, there's a lot of things I don't deal with, but got a pretty good variety of experience, and I see things, just out doing service calls and things that I'm bringing into the class, and I'm talking to them about, and letting them solve problems that I may run into on a daily basis. So that's the way we try to approach it.
Hey guys, and good morning. John Winters here. I'm adjunct professor of HVAC electrical components, heat pump application, and heat load and duct design. I'm a former student of the program, went through the program from 2016 to 2018. December of 2017, I was able to find a job at a local company, remained there for 6 years just about before I moved on to teaching. Being a former student, I myself know of the training that we provide here at MCTC, how valuable that can be, the connections you make for life going through here. It is just a very close-knit and tight community of very like-minded people who want to see others succeed in the HVAC industry. We pride ourselves on the fact that we're not rooting for anybody in particular. We're rooting for everybody to succeed. I love that. I love that atmosphere, and look forward to building a good relationship with our local companies. Seeing some of you guys, I know I'll see some familiar faces whenever we do have a face-to-face meeting, and I look forward to it. Look forward to working with you guys. Thank you all.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Morton, and I'm the Director of Work-Based Learning Programs here for MCTC. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your decision to further your education with MCTC. The Earn and Learn model was actually created after the success of the HVAC cohort program that we had here. So you are joining an already esteemed group of colleagues who have gone through this program before. Essentially, Earn and Learn is a partnership between the student, you, your employer, and MCTC, with the goal of allowing you to gain skills and training to then in turn create a skilled workforce for your employer and for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We are thrilled to have you with us and look forward to celebrating many successes with you along the way. Thanks so much.
Today, we hope to answer a few questions about this program and how it may be beneficial to you, your company, your employees, family members, friends, whoever that you know that may be interested in something like this. So we'll find out what Earn and Learn is, how the program works, what we cover in the program, how the material is presented, and what's in it for you besides quality trained employees, hopefully. What else may be worth sending your employees, and then how much is it going to cost? Here's a breakdown of the credentials that we awarded. Uh, we had associate's degree. This is the general occupational technical studies degree, so it's just a general tech associates. It's not in air conditioning technology. We had 3 complete that, and all those that would complete that would be the ones that had classes that they already brought in with them. because there would be no way that they would have gotten through all the classes they needed. So anyone that did not have classes already would not have gotten that. But we do have at least 3 to date, and I think we've got some more that are tossing around the idea of coming back. So we'll let them complete those probably fall, or if not, even by spring of 2024, they will have completed the gen eds that they need to get their associate's degree if that's what they'd like to do. So we have some that are coming back to do that, and they're just going to do those online. So Work Ready still pays for that. Financial aid still pays for that as long as they still qualify. So that's still a win-win for them. Until they get their degree, Work Ready still pays. Their HVAC mechanic diploma, so this is the paper that carries the 1,500 hours 1 year with the state. 10 completed that out of the program. That was 3 extra gen eds. Some didn't complete that, and I know we talked about that being an issue with a few. So, but all of them received certificates, and those certificates, from my understanding, will count for I think up to 10 months. The way the state breaks that down for those certificates, so they still get the majority of their time for completing the certificates, but the diploma gets them the full year. So we were really proud of that, though, and we were kind of learning on the fly about how to implement that many classes and that many gen eds in that short of amount of time. So they did really good, and hopefully some more of them will come back and finish up, and we'll have even more degrees and diplomas in the future. Along with the grades in each individual class, students are tested. There's final exams in each class. They are expected to do work online while they're in the field, while they're not on campus with us. So hopefully one of the things that we can improve upon is that they're working on that. Maybe even be that they have a little bit of time set aside while they're in the field with you all, that they could have some time while they're on the clock, if there's a place there for them to go work, that they could get their online work caught up, because a lot of that is up to them. And it's supposed to be done before they come to us, but sometimes that doesn't always happen. They are tested in the EPA 608, as we already mentioned. We had 100% completion pass rate on that. Journeyman exam, 93%, and credentials of some sort, 100%. So we already covered that, but just showing you that. So our classes, the size of the class is typically between 8 and 15. We like to keep it around 10 to 12. That gives us enough room in the classroom to work in each group. Everybody can have their own access to equipment. We usually work in groups of 2 on a lot of things, but some things they're doing on their own as well. If we get much over 15, it gets pretty crowded. So right now we do have some room. Our Term Point companies will be sending some students, but I think we will have a little bit of room possibly for a few local students as well. So that's what we're wanting to open up to you all. Expected outcomes of the program. We're preparing these students to become quality apprentices with the potential to become exceptional journeymen. We don't over expect from what you send us, and we know that you're sending us new people, whether they're just starting or probably have been in the field no more than a year, or you probably wouldn't be sending them to us because they would be journeymen. When they leave our program, they're not going to be ready to run their own business. They're still apprentices. They are ready to be journeymen. So our expectation is that they know the basics and that they know how to learn. We teach them the fundamentals of each concept so they can always go back to that. So just really quickly, and it's a lot more than this, but we expect them to be able to read a meter using ohms, amps, volts correctly, and know the difference in those and when to use those safely for troubleshooting. We know they need to know the difference between loads and switches and how those that meter will react differently to each of those. They need to be able to connect low voltage and high voltage wiring, thermostats, hooking up outdoor units, those sorts of things, and to read schematics. So we spend a lot of time on that. Gas furnace operation. They need to know the basic sequence of operations of a gas furnace and to use that for troubleshooting, commissioning, preventive maintenance checks, so on and so forth. They learn how to do gas pressure adjustments and testing procedures of different types. Refrigeration fundamentals, we teach them the basics of the circuit. We teach them the fundamentals of operation so that they can always come back to that. Component identification, so they know what they're looking at, and operation parameters, what are their normal expected readings. Their procedures, they need to know how to use their gauges, they need to know how to use a vacuum pump, recovery machine, leak testing using nitrogen, brazing with or without flowing nitrogen, and charging properly. They should be able to commission and troubleshoot a system using pressures, temperatures on their gauges, measuring superheat, subcooling, delta T, relative humidity, wet bulb temperatures, amperage, so on and so forth. And then we do a little bit with load calculation. This is from the basics of what goes into a load calculation, what goes into sizing equipment, both on a block load and a room by room load. So they can use this in the field either as a technician or as an installer, as a designer, even possibly in the future. But just doing basic block loads so they can size equipment, room by room loads so they can figure out how many CFM should be coming into a room, system sizing, construction basics, just so that they know what they're looking at. And a lot of that's going to come with experience in the field more than what we can teach them, but we're giving them the basics. And then basic duct design, not so much physical design. We're not teaching them how to bend metal and cut duct board and install flex, but we're teaching them the design and sizing for metal and duct board, flex, so on and so forth, and how they would size their duct for each application. So one of the really cool things that we've been able to do in the past, and hopefully can do more in the future, is offer at least some of their gen ed coursework that they would need for their diploma and or degree. We can offer some of that on campus, and that's really contingent upon having faculty and staff that are on our campus that are able to offer this in this way, because they do have to do it in a pretty quick format. But in the past, what we've been doing is we've been doing communications training with Maggie Todd. Maggie is our, she's an adjunct communications instructor, but she's our financial aid representative on campus. And so she does a tremendous job of setting up different scenarios, because we all know that communications is the thing that's really lacking, aside from technical skills. Just being able to talk to people and being able to deal with customers, deal with coworkers, deal with supervisors, and phone etiquette, email etiquette, just a lot of different things that she brings into that class, and it's really designed for them. So she'll have them do mock phone calls, have them sit down and talk to a disgruntled customer, have them work with each other as if they're both riding in a van and they're having something to discuss. And so different types of cultural communication. And so it's a really neat class that's very beneficial, because we all know that's where the business really gets successful or not, is somebody who can talk to people and either make a sale or convince the customer that what they're telling them is correct, and present it in a good professional manner. We've done some leadership training in the past, and maybe we'll be able to do that as well. Sometimes that we've done different things for that requirement. And then this semester and last semester we did CAD training for their computer class. We can do that or some version. And if all these classes aren't available on campus, we can definitely do classes online as well, if they want to get that diploma and or degree. So we also have students that come back and they want to finish up that associate's degree, and they can totally do that even online. They may not even have to come to campus. So that might be something they would finish up the following year or in the summer, but it can definitely be done. So how does the program work? Classes start in mid-August and they end in early May, depending on what weeks and how many weeks of this we're running, how many students we have. We'll either be doing this 1 week out of the month or 2 weeks out of the month. Students will attend 1 full week. They'll go from Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. during that week. Now on Fridays, usually we kind of wrap up and end up a little early if we're caught up with everything, unless we have snow days and things like that. Holidays, Christmas break is in there, so we do work on that schedule as well, and I'll have a full course layout of when we'll be doing classes and things if you are interested in this. But they basically go full time that week. They're working. Most employers pay them that week just like they're working because they're essentially training for the job that they're doing. So the idea is the student is getting paid or getting some sort of compensation. A lot of our employers from out of town actually put their students in a hotel or an Airbnb. They give them gas money, they give them per diem, and if they're closer, then obviously they don't need all of that. But if they're out of town, they stay the whole week, and so it's a huge commitment. If you're more local, then that's not going to be as much of an issue. But we do urge employers to consider that this student is doing this for your company, and maybe that's where the contracts come in if you so choose to do that. That if you're paying them so much during that time, maybe you structure some sort of contract, or if you don't want to do it that way and they just want to take that week off without pay, that's completely up to you and the student. But their attendance is critical to success because they're coming to school every day, all day. If they miss one day, they miss a lot of material. And so they're going to need to be here. We work with you on that. If their attendance becomes a problem, then we can communicate with you. We have had students actually lose their jobs because their attendance at class started to struggle, and so that wasn't going to work. And so we're working with you. If you need to know anything about them, we do a what we call FERPA registration, to where you have access to the student records if you request. They basically give you permission for us to communicate any records with them or with you, and so we do that. And so we're working hand in hand. We're obviously here to help the student, but we're also here to help you. Coursework, the online work, they do have online material to do. There's lectures on there. There's videos, there's quizzes, there's exams. I'm not going through the book with them when they're at school. If there's a book for them to go through, or any book type work, quizzes and so on and so forth, most of that they're not doing in person, because when they're on campus, we need them to be working. We need to be in lab. We need to be doing hands-on stuff. Or I need to be giving them hands-on instruction, demonstrations. And so when they're in those labs, a lot of it is demonstration of good practice, so that they're seeing how it's done, how it should be done properly. And then they're basically asked to do the same things themselves. So for example, if we're doing recovery of refrigerant, then I'll show them maybe multiple ways to do it, different techniques. And then we'll try to kind of land on something that we think is possibly the best for best practical use, something that's usable in the field, but something that's also efficient. And so they'll practice that and until they get good at it. And then how their online coursework and the fundamentals and the theory apply to what they're doing in the real world. The classes are offered in an 8-week term. The program is accelerated in that they are essentially completing a 2-year program in about 9 months. And so that's why it has to be so aggressive when they're there. We're drilling them with everything and anything we can possibly give them. And then that's where the expectation of work outside of class comes in as well. And so if you so chose, if there was a place in your shop, or if you wanted to allow them time, that's completely up to you all. But some employers do that to where maybe they give them a day or an afternoon a week to work on some online stuff and get caught up. But that's completely up to each company. And then the fact that it's work-based. Students receive college credit for working for your company, so we can enroll them in a co-op course, and they can get some credit for that as well. So they don't have to take another type of class, but there's also classes that we can put them in if there's something special that you would like for them to learn, like chillers or something, PLCs. There's courses on campus besides just the minimum, but to get them through quick and to give them some credit for what they're doing, we do enroll them in that co-op. We can provide check sheets and competency lists for the employers, to gauge the progress of the student and to see where they are. And so you're not asking them to do something that's unrealistic. If they, are just starting, they may not know how to do some advanced things, and so what's expected. But at the same time, if it's something that they should have covered by now, then you should be able to put them through the paces on it and see that they can do it in real world practice. So that's the goal. The perfect way to do this is that a student is riding along, that they're seeing this stuff, if they're doing service or install or whatever, they're seeing it on a daily basis, and that whoever they're working with is working on training them as well, and that they have a realistic expectation of where they are, and maybe even how that we present it. So that opens up another opportunity. If you had somebody on staff who maybe was going to be a trainer, somebody that was going to handle more of your new employee training. Send them through this program, even if they're licensed. That's fine. They don't have to be an apprentice to do this. But if you want to know how we train them, we would love to offer something. You can go through the program as far as that goes as well. But we would love to show you how we train them, and maybe even do a little small class someday of just some basic things, and that might even help you and your employees. So that's really the thing, is if the employers buy in and the companies buy in to the way that they're being taught, I think it will really improve your efficiency. It will improve your callbacks, the parts changing and wasted time that you're spending having to call in extra help. And so that's the goal, is that we make a more quality tech that can be efficient and can get things done. But it is an investment. And so you're doing without them for a short term. You're maybe investing in them for the short term in hopes that for the next 20 years, they're a valuable asset to your company. And the rest of the time, once they are out of class, they are 100% yours. And so one of the biggest problems we have with some, and that's kind of how this came to be, was companies saw that this was that they needed something besides our traditional layout, which we do still have the option of. And if you want to send a student to that, they basically come in the mornings. They can come 2 days a week, or they can come 4, depending if they're doing a 2-year plan or a 4-year. But with this, it was basically, we would rather, instead of having them gone every single morning or 2 mornings out of the week and then having to get caught up or do without them those days, we'd rather send them to you for a short amount of time and then have them the rest of the time. And so that's kind of how this thing was born. So the class format is pretty simple. It's very similar to what we did last year, just a couple of small changes that we've made. And there may be a few slight changes that get made to this going on, but for the most part, this is what it will be. Classes are taught in an 8-week format, which means the classes will open up. They most likely will open up, depending on how the calendar falls, before they are on campus. So like I said before, they'll be working on their classwork ahead of time. They'll be expected to go ahead and get everything done that's due before they get to campus, so that when they get there, the labs that they're doing will be stuff that they already are familiar with. Most of my classes, the material is open pretty much from day one, and they can work ahead, but they're not encouraged to work from behind. So we want them to get everything done before they come, so that what we're doing is a review, not an introduction. We're gonna change things up a little bit. Last year we did the winter session co-op class, COE 199, and we did that as a Gen 140 class this semester. This year I think we'll do their co-op class during that time, so that they won't have as much of the work that they have to do. There will be some assignments that they have to do, but for the most part, that class is work experience class. There is a supervisor evaluation that's due in that class, and they are working on resumes and a few other things in that class as well. But for the most part, it's just giving them college credit for working, which is exactly what they're doing and what it's designed to do. So that should be not as hard on them for sure, but it still gets them college credit. And then, like I said, 1 week on campus per group. So we'll go over the calendar and what that's going to look like next. Here's a copy of the school calendar. The classes will start on the 14th of August. However, you'll notice all the weeks that I have marked in green, all those will be the weeks that they're in the field with you all. They're not on campus, but they do have online work that they can be working on. So classes are in session during those times. The 14th is the official start date of the semester. However, last semester, what I did is, just because of the format of the class, I actually opened the class up a little bit early, and they were able to go ahead and get a head start. So I usually open that up the week beforehand. If they want to go ahead and get a head start, I would definitely encourage that. And then the 21st will be the first week that we have students on campus of August. The yellow weeks, those are all Group A, and the blue weeks, those are Group B. Every month is pretty much the same format, with the exception of November, because November we have Thanksgiving holidays, so we skipped the week of Thanksgiving, so we did the week before and the week after. So that's the only one that's different there. And then December, we don't have students on campus. They do have that winter session co-op class, but they'll pretty much be handling that on their own, and they'll be working during that time, so they'll be with you. And then January, same thing. We start up in January. Um, Classes will start that the 8th, but we won't have students on campus until the 15th. Now, the 15th actually is a holiday, so that day we will not have students on campus. The way that this works out, Group A will have a 4-day week that week, so they'll come on the 16th, not the 15th, because Martin Luther King holiday. And then the same thing in February, we have President's Day holiday that we're closed for. So the campus is closed on both of those days. So it works out to where both groups essentially get one holiday off through that. So um, I'm not going to tell you what to do with that. You can ask them to come to work. If I was speaking on behalf of the students, I would maybe elect that day become a work day for them to just be able to work on their assignments from home. But once again, that's up to each individual company on how they're going to handle that. But each group does get one holiday, so just the way that it falls. March, we start back. We have spring break that week of the 4th, so there'll be nothing going on that week. And then we start back on the 11th with our second 8 weeks classes of the spring. And that's the same way that it works in October. You'll notice that week of the 9th is our fall break there as well. So that breaks up our terms. So every 8 weeks is broken up by a break. And then May, we won't have students on campus, but they will be finishing up final exams and those sorts of things. And then graduation is typically held toward the end of that last week of May, or that not last week of May, the last week that they're in classes. So I'm not sure if a date has been set, but it will probably be somewhere around the 10th, if I was guessing. So that should be pretty simple to understand. So if you want to go ahead and start scheduling rooms, that's what we're going to be going by. You want to know what's in it for you. Why would you do this? Why would you take the time without employees, send them to school and put them through this when you're obviously teaching them in the field? They're learning a lot of things hands-on. And so the first thing is training. We provide quality training, and we try to base it on real-world applications as much as we can. I have experience. I have 20 years experience in this field. I have my master's license. I've worked in the residential, commercial, ever since I've been pretty much out of high school. I've done this in some form or fashion. So I know what's out there. I know the things that they're going to run into, and I also know the theory and the fundamentals. And so we try to build a real strong foundation of fundamentals and theory so that they can always come back to that. But we don't just leave them at that. We show them how the theory applies to reality. And so this really helps when you're trying to build not just a worker, but somebody who can make a career of this, somebody that you can leave in a service van or in charge of an install crew, and they're going to know what they're doing and why they're doing it, how to use that meter, how to use those gauges, and how to use all the readings around them to troubleshoot a problem without just changing parts. And so that's the first thing, is we try to build an employee that's more valuable to your company. And part of that may be that, by sending them through school, that you may have them sign a contract or something, and that maybe help you secure that person a little longer as well. But sometimes just the fact that you're investing in people, I think, helps them stick around as well and feel a little bit more loyal to the company that is willing to invest in them whenever a lot of people aren't. What are they getting out of it? They have the possibility of completing OSHA 10 certification training, EPA 608 universal refrigerant training, and certificate. They'll get that within the first few weeks. We're looking at doing possibly doing an A2L mildly flammable refrigerant training through ESCO, adding that to something that they do as well, or making it an option that they could do. So they can do some training through ESCO, and we can offer them an exam through that. And then the last thing, the exit exam from the program, is that they sit for the Kentucky HVAC Journeyman exam, and we have some good results with that, and we've got some good study material. And so that's really the ultimate goal, is that they can get that test passed and they can get some experience. Aside from that, the degrees and diplomas that they'll get, they have the option to apply their HVAC courses um, towards diplomas and degrees. The HVAC courses alone will get them certificates, and those certificates can be applied toward the HVAC diploma with the addition of 3 general education classes. And then if they want to go on, or if they already have additional coursework that they're bringing in from another college, then we can plug that into an associate's degree, and they can get a full-blown 2-year college degree. So that's obviously more valuable, but there's all 3 options. And then the big thing for most companies, and this is really the reason why a lot of these companies are sending people to us, is that they can essentially, if they wish, get a journeyman in half the time. Because you have to have 2 years experience to become a journeyman. If that apprentice is working and they're going to school and they complete our program, the diploma will count for 1,500 hours, which is equivalent to 1 year of that experience. And if they're working during that same time, they can count that time at the together. So the certificates, if they just do certificates, that's up to 10 months, depending on what certificates they get. But the big thing we try to get them all to do is that diploma if possible. And so if you have somebody who's working, they're relatively new, or maybe they're not, but you want them to get the training, you want them to get the experience, and then you also want them to get some credit for doing that, they're going to do that as well. We also have a few courses that we allow these students to take that gives them college credit just for working. So there's a co-op class they take, practicum courses, that type of thing. And so they can get college credit just for working with your company. So that's another good thing. So how much does it cost? Well, if you came in and just wrote a check for the whole program, you're looking at about $10,000 to cover the cost of tuition and books, possibly maybe put you a little bit over that. That's not even counting your journeyman exam fees and EPA fees and things. But most of our students qualify for some sort of aid. So there's the FAFSA, which everybody has to do, regardless of if they're going to qualify or not. But that's where they can get grants based on their income. They can also get loans there, but we don't recommend a lot of students take out loans, especially if they're doing a work-based program, a third-party program that may be paying for the difference through their employer. But that's where they would do that. That's based on their income, or if they're under the age of 26 years old, unless they can prove that they are a completely independent minor, or well, not minor, but under the age of 26, they would file under their parents' income. So our financial aid coordinator, counselors can help with that if they come to campus, or if you want to have more information about that, I've got that available for you. So everybody has to do the FAFSA, and then if they don't qualify for FAFSA grants, that's federal money. Then there's the Work Ready Kentucky Scholarship, which maybe you've heard about, and that's available to any Kentucky resident who has a high school diploma or a GED. And the only thing is they can't have an associate's degree or higher, so they can't have a bachelor's, can't have associates. That doesn't mean they can't have taken classes, they just can't have the degree. So if they've taken other classes, that's completely fine. We'll get those transcripts in, and if there's classes that they can count toward their diplomas here or degrees, then we can get those applied. But that's really the only stipulation. And that covers all tuition with the exception of a few fees. It doesn't cover their books. It doesn't cover tests. It doesn't cover graduation, caps and gowns, things like that. But for the most part, it covers the majority of their fees. So I think like a lot of our students in the fall, they'll end up with a bill that's like less than $100. And then in the spring, some of those fees get applied because there is a limit on how much it'll cover in a calendar year. And I think they may end up owing $500 or $600 or something for that last semester. But still, that's pretty good for an entire 2-year program to do that for less than $1,000. Now, those numbers aren't, that's just a good rough idea. The only thing that we run into sometimes, and this is more for our Louisville and Indiana students, is if the student is a non-resident, non-Kentucky resident, but this would be the same as Ohio, the same situation around Maysville we run into sometimes. They are not eligible for Work Ready because that's a Kentucky scholarship. You have to be a Kentucky resident. And they may still be eligible for FAFSA. That really depends on income. But that does create a little bit of a problem where they're an out-of-state student. But and most out-of-state students, unless they're in the contiguous counties that join us, they are actually charged an out-of-state fee, and that makes it even more. I think it ends up being $6,000 or $7,000 a semester. But what we have been able to do, at least at this point, the main thing we can do is we've been able to waive those out-of-state fees, and so any out-of-state students or companies can send their students and pay the in-state rate. And I'm assuming we can get that done again going forward. And so you may say, well, why would I do that if I'm an out-of-state company? Because most of those companies have trouble finding students, especially Indiana and Ohio, where the licensing requirements are different. They may have trouble finding people that have Kentucky experience and that are licensed to go into Kentucky. And so if they're right there on the border, they can't send all their techs because they may not all be Kentucky licensed. And so by doing it this way, they get a technician who has at least 1 year of Kentucky experience this way, and then they can get the other through the company if that company is a Kentucky is registered as a licensed Kentucky company. So that's really beneficial for them, even though they are paying. So a lot of those companies are paying out of pocket, but it's still worth it to them. So that's something to keep in mind. In closing, we really appreciate you taking your time out to go through this and at least hear it out. Maybe we can help you out this year. Maybe we can't, and maybe this is something that you want to do in the future. But we would be glad to help you in any way we can, whether it be you sending us students for training or us sending our students to you for work. So remember that some of our regular students that are going through our traditional program, some of those are accelerated and others are more of a traditional 2-year plan. So they can go through that plan in 2 years, 2 days a week. So they have 3 days a week plus weekends free to work. So if that works for you, then keep that in mind as well. We'll be glad to help you any way that we can. You can call me on my college campus information is on my card there. But you can also put my cell on your phone, keep it anytime if you need anything. 606-748-4517, and email me. That's kind of the 2 best ways to get with me. If you call my campus email, I don't always get that. I'm not always in my office, and even if you leave a message, sometimes it doesn't go through right. So the best way is email and shoot me a text or a call on my cell. And then John Winters, his information's here. There's his cell phone number and his email address as well. And we'll try to help you out any way that we can. I appreciate your all's time.